And gentlemen, it's time for the news. Are we ready for the news?
Woohoo! Am I?
Here's how you know I'm ready for the news. I put on my news reading specs. There we go. Now we're ready for the news.
Reading specs. I'm ill prepared for this.
All right, so we're going to start off with some news in the world of Legendary, and in this case specifically, the James Bond Legendary game. All right, and this is a new expansion coming, I think, this month in February. This is the Spy Who Loved Me expansion for James Bond Legendary. Have either of you played this version of Legendary?
Dan, have you even heard of James Bond?
No, he's a complete rumor. I'm being hotly tipped that I'm going to be the next James Bond, actually, Chris.
Oh,
yeah.
It's between you and Idris Elba. I think you've got the upper hand there, Dan.
Yeah.
James Bond,
I'm so suave. That's what it is.
His dad.
No, I haven't, but Legendary do narrative surprisingly well for a card game.
Yeah.
The Alien stuff really translated the films really well, considering it's just a bunch of cards. So this, and I tell you what, they've got the right license for 7 billion expansions here, haven't they? They know.
Yeah,
they've picked the right horse there.
They could go movie by movie. I mean,
yeah,
right. Yeah, it says that the first expansion had On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was clearly the most popular of all of them, and License to Kill. And this new expansion has 120 cards and has Carl Stromberg along with Jaws. Everyone's favorite Bond villain, I think, is Jaws. This is a Roger Moore version of of James Bond. So yeah, they've kind of gone across all of them, right? They've had some Sean Connery ones. They've had Roger Moore. I think they've even had some Timothy Dalton ones in here. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. What's the next franchise you're gonna? The Ernest films. There's a lot of those.
Oh,
Ernest
yeah.
Goes to Camp. Yeah,
Ernest
Legendary
Goes to Camp could be the next legendary thing. You heard it here first, folks. Nice Tower News.
They should do Austin
Legendary
Powers
Ernest
and make it completely shuffleable, mix-inable with the James Bond series. I would play that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Legendary Havern. Moving on, we've got a new title from Spielworks, and this is a design from Matthias Kramer. And I guess this was something that was originally announced as a 2019 release from Compass Games, but instead is going to be a co-production between a German company and Capstone in the U.S. This is Weimar, the Fight for Democracy, 4-player game that takes 3 to 6 hours to play. So sounds like kind of a heavy-duty war game, and card-driven, it says. So I don't know. This is not going to be a game necessarily that is, in my wheelhouse. Although I do think it's the subject matter is interesting as somebody who was a history teacher for a number of years, kind of talking about the Weimar Republic and Germany. So that's interesting. Although the game sounds like it might be a little too much for me.
Yeah, and Matthias Kramer is a really good designer. I mean, Glenn Moore and Kraftwagen are games that I both really enjoy.
Absolutely.
I know I'm missing an obvious one here, but Rococo.
Yeah.
So this sounds really different from him. It is cool to see a designer do something wildly different, even if it's not for me.
Yeah. Dan, you have nothing to say about the Weimar.
It's too long. I'm not.
All right. Dan says it's too long. Here we go. Moving on.
Put on the back of the box.
Moving on, something that does not look quite as long. It says 30 to 60 minutes. This is coming from Gale Force 9, and it's called Tusk, Surviving the Ice Age, from a pair of designers that I'm not familiar with, Sean Goodison and Mike Hott. It says you and your opponents must work together to take down the toughest game. So it sounds like a cooperative game. It's scheduled for release in May 2022. I like that cover quite a bit. I know it's kind of cartoony and silly. It doesn't really look like a Gale Force 9 game to me.
No, it's a semi-co-op, which raises my alarm bells.
Oh, does it say? Oh, it says right there, semi-cooperative. Sorry, yes.
So I've rarely enjoyed a semi-co-op game, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I like the theme of all tribes getting together to hunt down a mammoth.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do it.
If it's short enough, right? It says like 30-minute-ish time play.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for like the semi-co-op game that I think is, fun and works. And some of them drag out too long, right? I think that's why the Legendary games, speaking of, have moved away from the semi-co-op, and I believe all of the new ones are just fully cooperative. So, hey, maybe, I like the cartoony look to it a lot.
The only thing is, it looks a bit like a kid's game, certainly from the cover.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, semi-co-op for kids isn't going to work very well. I certainly wouldn't want to be at that games table.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
You should have played better, daughter. I'm pulling out. Have fun taking down the mammoth.
I will betray you now. It's like,
This is the scorched earth method. Yeah. It's interesting, though. This theme is one that had not been very, heavily utilized, but it seems like lately we're getting more and more of these types of themes. King Domino Origins, and we've got upcoming Endless Winter Paleo Americans, and you have Paleo. So this seems to be a theme that is kind of, in the zeitgeist right now. All right, moving on. We've got a expansion for a game that's really, really popular that I have never played. This is Ginkgopolis, The Experts, and this is. It says it's coming March 18th of this year. So 5 new modules this adds to Ginkgopolis. So it's a modular expansion. I tend to like modular expansions. Have either of you gentlemen played Ginkgopolis?
No, because it's always been very expensive as far as I'm aware.
Yes.
Is it actually available now? Because I know it was one of those ones that no one could get for ages.
It was just reprinted, I believe.
Right.
Last year
Yeah.
or so. Yeah.
Making
it
everyone
had been kind of a grail game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I don't think I love it. It seems I'm not going to say random, but a little bit chaotic. Like you could be building up a lot of stuff, and then someone could kind of cut off some of the progress that you've made because you want to make a lot of connecting sectors. So I don't know. It's what I'd have to play again. I enjoyed my play of it, and like you said, modular expansions are kind of neat because you can just throw in a little bit here and there. So. Yeah, I would try this expansion for sure.
It means you've got loads of options that you'll never play, rather than just one option that you'll never play with an expansion.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. I don't like expansions.
Dan's a big fan of expansions. Big fan of expansions. Speaking of expansions, a game that has been heavily expanded and iterated upon is the very popular title Munchkin. And Steve Jackson Games, which is the creator of Munchkin, and Cryptozoic is partnering up to announce something that I can't believe hasn't happened before now, and that's Munchkin Batman. I actually think, Munchkin gets a pretty bad rep in hobby board gaming. And I kind of get it, but I can also tell you that when I first got into games, I played a lot of Munchkin, and there are a lot of people that still play Munchkin a lot. It's still an important game in the hobby, I think. And I think this is another kind of a tie-in that just makes sense to me. I'm kind of intrigued that they got John Kovalik to do the DC art. I didn't, sometimes that's tricky with IPs. They don't always want to allow a different artist to do it, but I think it looks kind of cool.
I think John Kovalik is a known name within comics, isn't he? He's had floppy comics and things. He's had proper comics as well as just being a board game artist. So maybe that's why. I've got no desire to play it, but I think I think it's fine to exist. I will allow it. I will allow it.
The idea of what is Munchkin's societal benefit culturally versus how I rate the game, huge disparity.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
if more people are going to jump into the hobby and play neat games because they see Bat Munchkin, which I think is what they should have named it, then cool. Then fine. That's fine. And I do like John Kovalik's art style. I think it works so well for this type of game. And so I'm happy to see this because I think the Marvel Munchkin or whatever, Avengers Munchkin or whatever it was called, they had the more serious comic book look to it. This fits better.
Batman's got the whole 60s Batman type thing as well. So Batman is so much more adaptable for comedy, I think, than Marvel. That's
a good point. I agree with that. I'm going to make a bold prediction, gentlemen. Are you ready for the bold prediction?
Yeah.
Okay.
This game's going to be very popular. All right.
Woo!
Moving
Calm
on.
down, Mike.
A game that actually just came into the studio, I haven't even really had a chance to look at it yet, is like they're calling it like Munchkin in reverse here, Level 20. This is a Pathfinder, that very important Pathfinder Level 20, and it's kind of spinning the Munchkin formula on its head a bit by having the players be the ones to prevent the heroes from reaching level 20. So kind of a reverse Munchkin type of thing. This is also co-published with Gale Force 9. So I don't know. I don't know very much about it other than what we're seeing here. And like I said, we did just get it into the studio, so I'm sure we'll get a chance to look at it. But, Pathfinder is also a very big IP within the industry, and they're mostly known in the role-playing side of things. But they have had like the Pathfinder adventure card game. So they've also had the tabletop edge things a little bit. I don't know. This looks like it could be maybe an entry-level type of a dungeon crawly type thing.
I think if they in the PR stuff, if they're comparing it to Munchkin, then they are losing a chunk of serious board gamers and gaining a chunk. Munchkin became popular amongst role players as something to play when not everyone turned up at role playing nights. Often that's the case. So it feels like this is a board game aimed at role players with the Pathfinder name, attaching it to Munchkin, all that kind of stuff, rather than a board game aimed at board gaming. But I mean, there's cross pollination everywhere, so I'm not saying no one can play it, but that's what it feels like to me.
All right.
Judging by the fact that it doesn't say cooperative anywhere, I'm going to guess that this is a competitive game. Otherwise, they would probably try to put that front and center. But
players compete as adventurers who want to be the first to hit level 20. So yeah, it sounds like a competitive game. Yep.
Okay.
And it was created by the co-designer of Dragonfire, Evil Dead 2 board game. So someone who's had some games already published.
Got it.
All right, moving on to what I think is going to be a very divisive cover. And I'm a big believer in board game covers. We were having this discussion in the studio yesterday. I was getting on my soapbox, Dan. I was climbing up on my soapbox, and I was saying...
Did you need to reach a shelf, Mike? Because you're quite short. We're just trying to reach a shelf.
Let's not get caught up in the details. Okay. Let's not get caught up in the details, Dan. But
You're trying to get Tom to pay attention to you. I get it, Mike.
I was shouting from the rooftops. Yeah. Just that I feel like board game covers are much more important than I think some publishers realize. They can really, I think, make a huge difference in how popular your game is. I don't know what I feel about this cover yet. It's called Revive by Aporta Games. Part of me absolutely... You're right. Part of me loves it, and part of me thinks that this is going to be a huge problem. Because if you're looking at it from just the front, if this is the final cover, and let's put that out there. I don't know if this is the final cover or not. It says it's scheduled for release in Essen this year, so this might be an early prototype, rendering. Part of me really likes it because it's doing something bold, kind of like the Etherfields cover did, and part of me thinks that it's going to put a lot of people off. It's about rebuilding civilization 5,000 years after everything is destroyed. It's got kind of this Aporta design team that's been behind games like Santa Maria, Trails of Tucana. I'm intrigued by the game itself, and I kind of like the cover, but again, what are your thoughts?
Aporta has two types of covers. You have your Automania Santa Maria goofy cartoon cover, and then you have Peak Oil and this. This is it's an odd mishmash for the company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I think I've chosen the wrong flower. I'd have gone with the tulip personally rather than that's my hot take on it. I don't think because you're gonna have to see it from the side to read what it is. I think not having the name of the game on the front is a bold but potentially foolish move. I don't know.
Abyss
I would label
did
it
that,
under
right?
mistake.
Yeah,
maybe. Remember, Abyss didn't have the title on the cover either.
It did, and I'm willing to bet that didn't help it tremendously. What I think would be neat, actually, would be is if the rest of the word for Evive was written in like what is that? The spot UV, something like
yeah.
It would be cool to see like an optical illusion, right?
So that maybe it is, Chris.
You can't see it at one angle. You do see it slightly from the side.
It's more looking at it online that I'm thinking of. In online stores, they only generally have the front box head on, don't they? So I think it'd be fine in a brick and mortar store, it'd be on its side. That'd be absolutely fine. But on an online store, it'd be very difficult. I don't know. I don't think it'll work. But
maybe it's like one of those.
I like it. I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's like one of those magic 3D posters where the cover is the title of the cover is out there. You just have to look through it. Just keep lose focus and you'll see it.
No, they don't exist. That's a scam. That's a scam done by poster manufacturers. I've never seen one of them in my life. Don't get me started on that. We're going to be here all day.
All right. Moving on from the classic tabletop to the digital implementations of tabletop, we've got a Wavelength app. That's going to be today. It's scheduled to release today. So interesting. I mean, this is an app that's free to play. And then although you can get packs of extra cards to supplement the 200, as an IEP or something. So I don't know. I think this is a game that could work well as an app. It loses kind of that big. One of the things about Wavelength that I think people like is that kind of big centerpiece component where you move the little dial and reveal. So I don't know.
I think this is a fantastic move by them. I think this is good. This game would have the potential to go because you're right. It does lose that table presence, and among board gamers, I'm sure a lot of board gamers would like to think. But this could go viral. This could be the new Wordle.
It could.
Because Wavelength's a really interesting game, and they broaden their entire. And by making it free, they broaden the entire audience for this. So this gets enough momentum. This could transcend the board gaming world and just become something that teenagers play on the bus.
Right. I always have my phone on me. I can't always carry the big box of Wavelength with me. So this is, I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be a great drinking game. Great game for parties. Yeah. This could be a bit like that game where you put the phone on your head and stuff. I think.
I was just going to mention that one. What's it called? The Ellen DeGeneres talks about it all the time, or she may even be associated with it. Heads Up, or I don't remember what it's called, but
head flip or
something.
Yeah, head on.
Phone on head
directly to the forehead.
Nokia Dome. Yeah, no, this is I was thinking the same game. That's interesting, Dan. All right, moving on to what apparently is good for the industry, according to our Stephen Bonacore, our dice guy here, is Games Workshop is announcing price increases. So Dan, this is here specially for you. So across multiple product lines, including Warhammer 40K, and more, it's going to take effect for U.S. retailers March 7th of this year. And they're saying it's in response to rising costs of electricity, gas, raw material, shipping, and general inflation occurring in many parts of the world. They're reporting that the price increases on their products will mostly be around 5%. However, for certain products like books, scenery, resin minis, the price increase could be upwards of 10%. And on Blood Bowl teams and metal miniatures, the price could go up around 20%. Wow. Certain things are going to be spared from this: paint and paint sets, brushes and tools. So I think it's interesting in a couple of respects, and then I'll shut up so that Dan, you can rant and rave about how you ain't paying them prices. But I think that if you're going to do something like this, it's good to be as transparent as possible, and it sounds like they are doing that. They're not trying to kind of sneak this in; they're putting it out there. That's all I have to say about it. Dan, what do you think? And Chris?
I think it's a real shame because I think Games Workshop are in danger of losing their value for money reputation. Of being very cheap things, cheap and cheerful things to get into. No, I mean. Well, that's just an extra £1,000 per model, isn't it? 5%, something like that. No, Games Workshop. The thing about Games Workshop is the quality of their stuff is so high, and they do manufacture in the UK, which puts them at a lot of market forces and things like that. So it's a lifestyle game, isn't it? People who are into it. So 5% isn't going to drive those people away. It might drive some of the casual people away. It certainly might drive me away from buying that extra Blood Bowl team or something like that. It was interesting they're not going to put the prices up in Australia or New Zealand, which is probably for the best, seeing as Australia and New Zealand are notoriously expensive Games Workshop stuff. So that's at least a break for those guys. But Games Workshop's going to Games Workshop. What can you do?
I think prices in general are going to go up for many sectors of the hobby. So
yeah.
That's going to be, I think.
Asmodee have increased prices all over the board. I know. It's just expensive. It's getting expensive.
It's just part of it. I think that costs are going up all around. All right, we're going to end the news here with some pretty big breaking news. This is just very, very recently been announced. And this is that Ravensburger, the very, very well-known publisher, is investing in Gamefound, which is a crowdsourcing platform for board games and also a pledge manager. And so this is pretty big news. Before we talk about it, what we're going to do is we are going to cut to an interview. Tom Vasel interviewed Marcin from Tom Vasel. He runs the Dice Tower.
Oh, right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So he interviewed Marcin from Awakened Realms and Gamefound, and so we'll cut to that, and then we'll come back, say a couple of things, and that'll be the news. So let's cut over to that interview with Tom and Marcin.
Hey everybody, Tom Vasel here with Martin Schwerkout from Gamefound. Now we talk about Gamefound a lot.
Yep.
Gamefound is a crowd surfing platform that is mostly used, well, almost exclusively used for board games and card games and things like that. But you have some pretty big news, and so we thought we'd bring you in and talk to you about it. So what's the big news?
All right, so cool news, pretty exciting, is that we're joined by Ravensburger as an investor for the crowdfunding and also as a strategic partner. This is like $4.5 million deal, and this will basically boost the development abilities of the platform, so hopefully be able to introduce more functionality soon. But also, I take it as a kind of cool thing, cool trend in the general direction of the kind of crowdfunding, because I think this is the first time that this kind of like mainstream publisher actually took a direct interest towards the crowdfunding process. And, I think that it's about time, seeing how many awesome games are from this kind of like crowdfunding sector, and then coming to retail and just doing extremely well. All right. So it's pretty exciting for us here.
All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. So here I am, I come in, I hear this news. So Gamefound, a lot of people have been hearing about them because we've been talking about them. You started out originally as a fulfillment or a pledge manager. Which a lot of people used and still used. It's one of the most used, if not the most used, one for campaigns, many of them on Kickstarter. And then you started, when did Gamefound start doing its own projects? That was about a year and a half ago, I think?
No, it's like a year ago, almost exactly. So we started in December 2020 with ESS Vanguard, but actually it finished at, January 2021. So 2021 it was the crowdfunding year when we started actually for the first time going with it.
So you've been growing and adding more projects. There was just a few at the very beginning, and we're starting to see a slow growth being added to the website. So what does this mean in regards to how the company works? Will we see any changes in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, generally, for sure, we'll have to structure the team better, right? Because it was as a startup, right? It started, 5-6 years ago with just one, developer, software development. Right now, we're a team of 15, 18 people. And then we are, with this investment, we'll be able to grow even further as a team. So it will be a little bit, challenging to make sure that everything is working properly in terms of the team. But then we hope that we'll have a big growth in terms of what basically we can offer.
Are we going to
creators? How we can, kind of service them, right?
Will we see more projects coming to Gamefound then? Will the rate of projects increase?
So right now we're in a closed beta, so we're only like approving few, and usually it was like 3 to 5 campaigns a month, right?
Right.
And this beta period was important for us just to see what is needed, what we need to fix, the kind of things we wanted to make sure that once we'll make the platform open for everyone, it will be ready basically. And we're coming to that. It should be early March where we are opening the Gamefound. So that will be super interesting to see. But obviously we'll see. But in 2021, we generally had projects that in total gathered $23 million, 22, 23, something around that. And that's for the first year company startup, I think that's quite a lot. We had some amazing campaigns for Too Many Bones, great game, great campaign. We got He-Man, Skyrim. So a lot of interesting projects, and it's really exciting to be a part of that when you see those great games coming out and kind of community interacting with creators. That's really cool experience.
So when I looked over the press release here, I'm looking to see. So Ravensburger, obviously, they're pumping some money into the company, but does this mean we're going to see their games or some games from them show up on Gamefound?
Sure, it is possible. We'll see. Generally, there will be a time where we'll just kind of see what works best, right? In terms of like where are the synergies, how best we can use it. And there are like a lot of ways of doing that. For one of the ideas is, sure, maybe we'll be able to introduce some kind of games through crowdfunding from Ravensburger, or the other way around is also possible. Like, what about we'll be able to take the most, some of the campaigns, for example, fit portfolio of Ravensburger, get them in touch, and maybe we'll be able to like ease out the transition from crowdfunding then to like a general retail and make some games more available, not only during the crowdfunding, but also after.
All right, well, this is very interesting. We'll look forward to see what's going to happen. We think that Gamefound is going to get more involved in this, and I told you before, I'm really rooting for you all. I think that this space is very interesting. As a side note, we do have Gamefound sponsorship on the Dice Tower channel, and we use them for our own pledge manager for our Kickstarter project that we ran this year. But I have nothing but good things to say in those regards. So thanks, and we look forward to seeing the future. Back to the Pirates.
So pretty big news, I think. This is something that I think it's interesting to me for a couple of things. Number one, I think just generally as a consumer of crowdfunded games, and I've purchased many games on crowdfunding programs. I think competition is good, right? I think generally speaking, it's going to hopefully move the whole thing forward a bit. And the other thing is just that it's an interesting combination in that Ravensburger, that name I think holds a lot of weight in hobby board gaming. It's a company that's been around a long time, and I think it lends some legitimacy to a relatively new platform like Gamefound. So I'm very interested in seeing where this goes.
Yeah, it's like the old world and the new world meeting, isn't it? I mean, Simon and all that kind of stuff. They're the new generation of things, and them using Kickstarter isn't exactly surprising. But Ravensburger, this is a weighty, proper German company that's been around for decades.
I mean, half their product line is puzzles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of what I think of them for are these kind of partnering with Alea, the big box, medium box line. I don't think of them as a crowdfunding company. So I think that's interesting, because maybe I don't know if that means that they're going to move that direction. I think it more so just means they know a good opportunity when they see it, and so they're going to jump in on it and work together on it.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a change in direction for them. It's going to be interesting. I think Kickstarter has floundered a little bit recently. It's made a number of missteps that have not been particularly popular with people. It's not changed since it first started. And they've got some real competition coming up with Gamefound now. And I think that, as you say, that can only be good for the community and good for the consumer, ultimately.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll all be keeping a very keen eye on that indeed. So let's go to our final block of contributors, and then we'll come back to wish you a fond farewell. Let's cut to the contributors.